Hi, everyone. My name is Hallie, and I'm a member of the Quad Education team. I want to welcome you to this webinar on researching colleges and how to find key information. We have two of our fantastic consultants with us today who are going to share a bunch of information that they have, some insider secrets with you all. For those of you who don't know, Quad Education is an admissions consulting company. So we work with students and families through the entirety of the college admissions process, from just starting to think about college years before you apply to actually committing to a school and heading off to college. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to talk about, so we'll first introduce our panelists, and then we'll talk about why it's important to research colleges. We'll talk about how to understand your goals, what to consider when researching schools, talk about when you should start researching, how to navigate some of the websites and resources that exist, talk about college rankings and guides, talk a little bit about financial aid and scholarships, and then we'll open things up for a Q&A. We will be sending out a recording of this webinar within the next couple days. I know we're going to throw a lot of information at you all tonight, so you'll be able to reference it back later. And then, yeah, if you have any questions throughout this, pop them in the Q&A box and we will get to those at the end. All right, so we have Arianna and Marina here with us today. Arianna, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Arianna Lee, and I'm an admissions counselor here at Quad and a graduate of Dartmouth College. And I really love, of course, researching colleges, researching schools, and outside of the personal essay, it is also another introspective process and a great way to get to learn yourself, what you're looking for in the next years of your life. And it's truly wonderful. So love to dive into this topic.
Thank you so much for being here. Marina, can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, of course. Hi there, I'm Marina Lidow. I am also an admissions counselor, and I did my undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania at the Wharton School, and then also got an MBA at the University of Chicago. So a lot of business studies. So I guess that was kind of like my learning about myself. And yeah, really excited to talk with you all about this exciting process. Thanks for being here.
All right. Well, thank you both for being here.
All right, so let's look into why college research matters. So college research matters because it truly is vital in helping you make the decision that, hey, where am I going to go to school for the next 4 years? What am I planning to do? What majors am I looking at, and what school best fits what I'm planning to study? So it helps you in aligning with your academic, personal, career goals. Also, by conducting that research, it allows you to explore the various options and really help you to figure out what resources a school has that is really important to you. Is it location, cost? You really get to dive into the specifics. And again, it's an introspective process. So you get to learn about yourself and what you're looking for in your school.
All right. So when you begin that research, you want to start by understanding your goals. Let's dive in more there.
Yeah, so this process, definitely a really important part of it is you're reflecting on your own desires, both personal, non-academic, and academic, what you're interested in terms of academics, in terms of extracurriculars, just things that you're intrigued by, how you kind of expect to see the next few years of your life, but even really further down too. And that just really helps to ultimately figure out, how do I narrow down this giant list and figure out what schools will be most likely to help me meet my goals, make me happy. Just really helps to understand kind of what are your short-term goals, like what do you want to experience in the next few years, and then what do you want to happen after you graduate. So thinking about both your short-term and your longer-term goals can really help you to evaluate the different colleges that are available, thinking about things like their academic programs, or campus culture. Do you want to be in a big city or in somewhere more rural? What kinds of extracurricular things do you want to do, sports or clubs, and all of that stuff, thinking about what you see yourself doing over the next few years and beyond can be just really helpful to narrow down.
All right, so this is kind of the beginning of the bulk of our presentation here. So what to look for when researching colleges.
Awesome. So I know a lot of us are introduced to the colleges that are most nearby us, which is awesome. But it's great to develop a longer list. And of course, there's nothing wrong with including the local colleges or even state colleges nearby. For me, it was University of Michigan. So what to look for when researching colleges: academic interest. So what classes do they offer? What hobbies that you really enjoy, do they offer that? Is that something that you'll be able to start there? And extracurricular activities that you enjoy doing, is that something that's possible to do there? So you really want to look into that. Like if you enjoy surfing, maybe you want a school that's by the ocean and not necessarily Midwest. Try and figure out what's most important to you and what are deal breakers for the schools of your choice. And again, you can explore programs that can help cater to your passions and help connect you to majors, internships, and things of that nature. So you can always look and research that way too. Another thing to look at too when researching for colleges: location, of course. Do you want to stay close to home or do you want to move away? For me, I chose to go to New Hampshire, and I'm from Michigan. So moving away was that was the choice for me. That might not be the same choice for all of you. So in researching colleges, that's definitely an essential aspect if that matters to you. If you are going to move far away, kind of calculate how far that trip is going to be if you ever want to go back home. And of course, these are preferences. Can you go to a school that really offers everything else except for maybe not location? What are your deal breakers?
And so I talked a little bit about academics and location, but another big factor to think about is extracurricular interests. And that can be just as much the things that you have already been doing in high school and want to continue to pursue. For example, if you love science and want to make sure that there's some kind of cool science community, or if you are an athlete and you absolutely want to continue with that, or you want to be able to do it kind of at a club level. Those are the types of things you might want to look at. But you might also think about, okay, what did I not have a chance to do in high school that maybe I'd love to explore as a college student? Maybe I want to be, in an entrepreneurial community, or I want to be able to learn about, media and get involved in some kind of like student publication. So definitely think not just about the things that you've already done, but if there's something new that you've never had a chance to explore, maybe because you didn't have time or you didn't know it was of interest to you or your school didn't offer it, that's a great opportunity to just get that like additional exposure. I think as high school students, we don't get a ton of choice about where we go for the most part, whether you're just at your local public school or your family has made a decision, maybe you contribute to the decision too. But this is an opportunity to really think about something maybe you felt like you were missing. So definitely take advantage of it. And then budget, of course, is a very important factor. You want to think about the different costs of different schools. But one thing I really encourage people to do is not to make assumptions about like the final cost of a school without really looking into it. I'll just share, for example, I'm from Illinois. It actually was cheaper for me to go to the University of Pennsylvania than it was to go to U of I. And that was just, different things, like sometimes that's need-based. In my case, I was able to do that. But in other cases, there are awesome scholarships. Sometimes you can get like third-party grants too. Like definitely don't just say, I'm never going to go to the school because I think it's too expensive. There may be opportunities to work around that or don't assume a school is really inexpensive, and it may be very expensive. So certainly look into that. Also think about other expenses, right? Like Arianna said, if you're having to make the trip home and it's really expensive because you're in some kind of super remote location, that's another added cost that you may not have thought about, but it all adds up in the end. And of course, your high school performance, kind of having a good level of self-awareness about your academics, your tests, the types of courses that you've taken in high school will really help to kind of, once you've got a list of, okay, I'm interested in these, to figure out, okay, which of these make the most sense as a good fit for me, based on my own profile and how competitive I might be within the application process. Yeah, anything to add there?
No, that's absolutely. And I think we'll get further into it, but absolutely looking at your high school performance and just holding yourself accountable. It's not saying that it's not putting you in any categories, just being realistic at what schools you're looking at and what's the chances of potentially getting into them.
All right, so what's the timeline for this? When should you start your college research?
Yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. So again, you're going to hear this consistently happen. To maximize your college prospects, to have the best chance of, getting your essays done, your applications done, everything done for the schools of choice after you've narrowed down your list, you want to start as early as you can. So ideally, at least by the junior year of high school, you want to start looking at what colleges are on your short list. You want to start planning, potentially touring the schools, potentially asking students that currently attend, alumni or professors that are currently there, questions about the schools of choice that you're really interested in. And during this time too, you're going to be preparing for the ACT or SAT. You're going to be looking more at your own scores, doing that self-reflection we just talked about your GPA, and assessing, hey, what are the chances of me getting into this school? Okay, cool. I have a short list. Let me seriously figure out if this school is a good fit for me in the next 4 years.
So when we say junior year of high school here, does that mean ignore everything about college research until then, or are there things that you can do before that?
That's like your last, no, you can start. I started looking at schools when I was in middle school. So you can start as early as you want to. Again, we're naturally introduced to local colleges as we drive to our elementary school, as we drive to our middle school. So just start going to fairs, college fairs, start figuring out, gaining information, talking to your high school counselors and your teachers, and just figuring out more information about the schools that are nearby, as well as that might be a better fit that they know of programs about.
All right. So there's a million different websites and resources available. Let's talk a little bit about those.
So the obvious place to start is the official website of the college. It's definitely not the end-all be-all, but it's a great place to get started. They design these for you to explore, so they're often going to have a lot of really great information for prospective students, details about the admissions process, what to expect in terms of academics. You'll be able to see what kind of majors are there. What does campus life look like? Lots of photographs, etc., and a good preview into what the financial aid process and experience would look like and what could be available. Start maybe with the admissions information. Figure out what the process looks like to apply. What essays are you going to have to provide? Do you need to take the SAT or the ACT, or is there something else? When would you be looking at applying there? Looking at things like whether early decision or early action is available, or if they have rolling admissions. And if there's anything special that the college might be looking for, you can also take a look at things like different like requirements in terms of classes that you might need to take, or profiles of students that have applied and been admitted. You'll also be able to see SAT scores, like requirements. Sometimes there will be like a range as well, but you can find that elsewhere too. Will they require recommendation letters? And then you'll be able to see all the essay topics. And before you start your process, once you're kind of closer to that junior year, you'll want to see, kind of have this list of, these are all the essays I have to write, and this will be a good place to capture that information.
Awesome. I know we've touched base on this already, but again, when you're going through the school's specific website, look and see what academic programs they offer. Do they have any internships available? Are there any specialized programs that you're really interested in? If you're pre-med, or if you're in particular niche fields of study, maybe look and see if they offer those specializations. And also campus life and student resources. You want to see what the college campus's culture is and how that aligns with you. How do you foresee your college experience? Do they offer particular student organizations, clubs, and extracurricular activities? And maybe if they don't, is this something that's easy to start on this specific college's campus? Learn about student resources, and I always urge and encourage students to try and visit the school, or at very least do a virtual tour. That way you can really get a firsthand feel as far as what they have to offer, and talk to other students and see what their experience has been. And also check in on academic advising, career services. If you need a specialized learning support, see if that is offered at the specific school as well. And then also health facilities. If you need specific health facilities to be nearby, see if that's feasible for the school as well.
In terms of other pieces, financial aid and scholarships, things to look for in the financial aid section would be details about what types of scholarships are available. Keep in mind that sometimes scholarships become available for sophomores, juniors, or seniors. Not everything is always going to be available at the get-go. Take a look at what grants are available, work-study programs. Sometimes some schools obviously have undergraduate and graduate programs. Some schools have just undergraduate programs. But if a school, for example, has graduate programs, you can take a look and see if there are different types of work-study programs that allow you to get exposure at the graduate school level. There are lots of specific opportunities, so just make sure to really check out this section. I just encourage you to, again, not make that assumption that it might be too much. Like there could be a great way to make it work. And we talked about this a little bit, but campus tours, virtual events, if you have the opportunity to go visit campus, such a great way to get a good feel for what an experience there might be like. I 100% encourage too, like at the end of the process, once you've kind of done your applications, if you haven't had a chance to see the school yet, go to the admit weekend. It can really like change your perspective so much to see the students that are there with you. But if you can go beforehand, even better. Talk to the students, see how you feel and how you fit. But the website will basically tell you like how to make that happen. Oftentimes there's a separate process for participating in a class or sitting in on a class. So don't assume that just because you sign up for a tour, that means you can go and sit in on a class. There may be a separate process for that, and that's a great thing to do, and one that you can kind of speak to if you have an interview, or you can mention it in an application. So also a good thing to look at. Open houses sometimes happen locally. Sorry about that. And sometimes they do virtual events, kind of like quick open houses online. They might have some students do different types of panels. So look out for that type of stuff. Attend, show interest. It's a great way to really get into like the details, right? Every school is going to ask you eventually to explain why you want to go there. It can be very hard if you haven't done any of these.
I love that you just brought up that schools are going to ask why you want to go there, and that's definitely one place where research comes in really handy. We did just do a webinar about that, about figuring out why you want to go to a school and being able to articulate that. You can find that on our website. But the research process that I'm sure Marina and Arianna can dive into a little bit more is a great way to kind of answer that question and put you one step ahead.
Awesome. Absolutely. That is a awesome question to be prepared for. If you want to start taking notes for it immediately, as far as, hey, I really love this about this school. Start coming up with love letters to the school, so to speak. It's just great research, and it's also a fun way to learn and see if the school is a great fit for you too. Another way to do that is using college rankings and guides. So college rankings, they can be helpful in college research. It can give you an idea as far as it can give you a snapshot of the college's performance level and reputation. I will say not all of them are accurate. So you have to be mindful as far as which college rankings you're looking at and for what reason. They do offer insights into academic quality. Programs that might be available, what schools are better for pre-med students versus students that are interested in performing arts and things of that nature. Student satisfaction, that's an important one to look at if you want to kind of gauge how these students that are attending the school feel with the school. And again, everyone's experience will be their own, so you should also keep that in mind as well. Alumni success, so sometimes the school will have graduation rates as well as post-graduation salaries. So maybe that's an important factor for you to pay attention to as well. But again, look and see the credibility of each guide that you look at. Some are more honest than others, and so just be mindful. Make sure you compare I wouldn't compare institutions purely based off these metrics. Again, it's just another tool in your toolbox, but you ultimately should use multiple layers to come to the conclusion whether school is the right fit for you.
And we should also note that there are some schools that have removed themselves from some of the large yearly ranking. So very high level schools have removed themselves from being considered in those. So you want to do research in a lot of places. All right, so financial aid and scholarships.
Yes, we've spoken to this a bit, but it's not just about figuring out the academics and the extracurriculars. This is a really important piece. You have to be really realistic about what you can take on and what you're willing to take on and what the long-term consequences of that might look like. And it's just very important to calculate that out, right? It's important because of the type of job that you might want to do after school. If you go to a school that's too expensive and the job that you want to explore in your early years perhaps isn't as lucrative, that might dissuade you from pursuing a passion that you have, right? So just be really realistic about this, vice versa as well. Maybe, your big dream is to start your own business and it's just super important for you to have the money set aside, or it's super important for you to meet the right people. Think about those types of things, and be really just aware of the financial implications of what a school might look like. But there is a lot of aid out there. Look at the website, look for the grants, look for the scholarships, look for programs that allow you to work while you're on campus and potentially getting some kind of credit for that. Look at the different types of loans and the rates and all of that. And also look beyond just the school's website. Think about every kind of unique factor about you and Google it plus scholarship, plus loan, plus grant. And see what might be available to you, because you would actually maybe be pleasantly surprised to find that there are other opportunities. Yeah, anything to add there?
No, I love that. I would say too, just be realistic. If you are going to a school and and you've applied and you've gone through the process and you're getting your financial aid back, do realize that work study, this might mean working around the clock. So just be realistic. I'm not trying to dissuade anyone or anything like that, but just be mindful. And like she said already, calculate the cost and see, is this a feasible option for me? But also realize this is a unique opportunity in your life. And this is something that you can definitely see the value on years later. So just weigh and figure out what is most important to me. How can I make this work? And there are options available. There are resources available. Start now. The earlier you start, the more opportunities are available for you to actually receive.
Absolutely. And also talk to your school guidance counselors. They generally have a great list of local scholarships or grants that are available for you to apply to, and might have some insight on which ones you might be a good fit for based on your academic interests, performance, the things that they know about you. So that brings us to the end of the content that we have for you. It was a lot of information. We do have a few questions, and so if you have any other questions, pop them in that Q&A box and we'll get to those as well. So one question we have, it's a great question. Is a campus visit part of admissions considerations? Would not being able to visit a campus be a detriment to my application?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, I'll say I wouldn't say that it's a detriment. Some schools do look at dedicated interest or demonstrated interest. I apologize. And there are not many schools that still do that, but there are some, and that would show helpful to those particular schools that look at that.
There are other ways to show that if visiting a campus isn't feasible, right? Like you can do the virtual events and you can reach out to students and you can try to network and meet some folks. You can read, professors' blogs and things like that. So there are other ways to do that. I think, as mentioned, this is a little bit like of an outdated thing. I don't think schools are specifically looking at that, but being able to be specific in your answer about why do you want to go to this school is very helpful. And for some people, that campus visit can be really beneficial in terms of finding that really unique thing that isn't written on the website and isn't being used by every other applicant. But you can also find that by talking to students on the phone, online, looking at videos, etc. So definitely.
Especially since COVID, a lot of schools have a ton of virtual events and resources. So signing up for a webinar or a virtual tour shows just as much interest as going and visiting the school. So someone is wondering if we can talk a little bit about transfers. Do either of you have any additional thoughts on researching schools for transfer students, or does that kind of follow the same playbook as non-transfer students?
I think you might be on mute.
Sorry. I was going to say, well, I think, again, being realistic with your academic performance. When you're talking about transfers, there are schools that are more transfer friendly than some. So I think doing the same research and seeing what is available, what's meshing with my goals would be helpful for the transfer research.
And if you're looking to transfer, you're probably in a position where you have a much better awareness of what was and wasn't working for you. So just, make sure you take that into account.
Yes, make sure you tell them the why.
In a good position to know what you are not looking for and looking for when you are researching might streamline your process a little bit. So Marina, this question is for you, but I think it's also just a good question overall and doesn't need to be pertaining to UPenn, but from your experience as a former UPenn grad, what would you describe as like the profile of a typical successful applicant? But I also know that's something that changes yearly.
Yeah, I'm sure my answer will be super disappointing, but I think there is not, a profile of a typical successful applicant. All of these schools are looking to put together like a great diverse group of individuals that can learn from one another. So they are really looking for unique things, and a school maybe trying to create like a student body where, okay, we have, we've got these athletes and we've got these people who are interested in this topic and these people who are passionate about this topic. So in that sense, there's just a lot of variation. Obviously, there are certain things that probably are kind of like the profile of a typical successful applicant. You'll get like certain scores and certain grades, and all of that information is typically available through the guides that we mentioned. But in terms of other things, I think there is a lot of variety, and I'd say maybe that's even kind of what the schools are kind of looking for in some way, right? Like, what makes you unique? So when I look through essays or applications, I think maybe that's the thing that stands out to me the most about successful applicants is like, wow, that's so interesting, or like, and it doesn't have to be about something that is actually like super unusual. Just the way that they kind of describe it can be really helpful to help them to stand out. So I suppose it's someone, if anything, maybe something that can be like really memorable about that person that makes them like a unique contributor to the community. But yeah, again, I think this applies across all different schools. So would love to hear from y'all too.
Awesome, thank you. So how do you balance traveling to visit colleges and missing school? Is it possible to get an excuse from school for these visits during the academic year to be able to attend sample classes? I'm going to say probably not to the second part of that question. But Arianna or Marina, do you have any thoughts on balancing visiting schools with actual school?
I would say try and do it on the weekends if it's possible, or try and let your teachers know. Some teachers are accommodating, especially to seniors or to juniors that they know are doing the application process. So I would just be as upfront as possible. Maybe get some excuse from your counselor. I don't know. Each school is different, so it's hard to say across the board. My high school, they gave college days, so they knew students would be out doing college tours. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, the other thing to look for are like random days that your district might have off that are not widely kind of off. If there's a teacher / staff training day or something like that, just take a look at calendars. A lot of times they do actually look pretty different. Like it's been a while for me, but in college, sometimes like you get these long breaks, right? Because you have to travel home, so you might not get other days off. So there might actually be some overlap where you in high school have a day off and the college students don't. So try to find that too, if that's an option.
I would say don't let your grades suffer because you're visiting colleges. You should put that, as a big priority in keeping your grades up to get into the colleges that you want to go to. Do either of you have any thoughts on good ways to learn about the culture of colleges, maybe outside of what a website tells you?
I would say one of the things that is most helpful for that is speaking to students who are there currently or have really recently graduated. So reach out to the folks that are in the senior class ahead of yours if they go to that school, and kind of ask them what some of the most fun, most hard experiences have been, what's something that surprised them, what's something that is exactly as they expected it to be. Those are the people that are really living it. So I think that's always very helpful.
I've had a student that would actually look up and subscribe to the school's newspaper and just read every single event, look at everything that's happening on campus to try and get, what's happening, what's about the culture. It's many ways to the same solution. So I agree with Marina, try and talk to someone that's there. That's the best, I would say, best way.
Great. Let's see. So as at Quad, what are ways that if a student was working with either of you that you would be helping them get into their schools, I guess? What do admissions consultants from companies like Quad do?
Dun, dun, dun. No. Yes, it's really about creating that unique connection to the school. Every applicant that is admitted is like a puzzle piece. No two are the same. They're connected together and make this beautiful picture of what the school is looking like. So you want to do the same with yourself. Figure out what is your unique connection to the school. What do they offer that I just have this specific, and try and think of, I know it sounds weird, but a love letter to the school, so to speak. What do you love about it? What is amazing that they offer that no other school offers? And yeah, again, talking to students to get that interpersonal experience of what they're going through, what they're doing on a day-to-day at campus, and how you can relate to that.
Yeah, and I think another piece that a consultant can help you with would be thinking about how do you tell your story in a unique way, and how do you avoid telling it in a way that's been overtold maybe. So helping with that self-reflection, having the ability to connect with someone about and talk about, okay, what does my profile kind of look like? And how can I make it stand out, I think is where it can be very helpful, as well as, if you're earlier in your journey, you can also speak with a consultant to help you figure out, what are the right classes for me to do, or what are the right activities for me to do? What opportunities should I pursue in high school if, XYZ is my goal?
Absolutely. So it's basically having someone who is very familiar with the college application process and knows kind of the ins and outs of everything, helping you curate your application to be as successful as possible. Definitely can't give you all A's, but it can help you package all of your info into just really something really appealing to colleges. That kind of, I think, Marina, you touched on, someone just asked if that applies to middle school as well. And that's much more of the helping you choose classes and extracurriculars and just building a strong profile to help you achieve good grades and everything that you need to get into the top schools later on. We do have a couple questions about transfer applications. I don't know how familiar you two are with the transfer application process, but is it kind of very similar to undergrad admissions? When should you start writing essays and all of that? I know transfer deadlines are not, application deadlines are they're not the same as traditional application deadlines. I think they're a little bit later, so you probably have a little bit more time, but any other thoughts there?
Sorry, I'm having I would say transfer applications are very similar to regular admissions, except you're saying as far as why you are choosing this route. So again, looking at what is your journey, helping to identify that as far as what is your interest and why does it fit this particular school that you're willing to do the transfer process.
Yeah, no, the only thing I'd add is with transfers, like the data point, the additional data point that they have is really important, right? Because this is actually like how you are able to perform in college. So be, I guess, very cognizant of that. I think sometimes you can feel like, okay, I got into college, I did it, I'm done. But if something doesn't work out or you're not enjoying it or it's not the experience that you expected, and you feel like you need to move, you kind of have to continue to show like your involvement and your ability to succeed in those classes at the college level. So I would just say, again, it's that like awareness about how you're doing and what you're doing well at and what you're enjoying out there.
Perfect. So we have a question about how to find acceptance rates for international students at a school and the programs in it. I don't know if you two have any places that you look for this, and no, different schools have it in different places. You might have to dig for it.
And again, go ahead.
I was going to say full transparency. That is not a topic that I'm super familiar with. I imagine you'd have to do some digging.
Yeah, I was going to say too, remember that take the rankings with what they are, and try and look on the specific school's site for what they offer, and try and figure out if what they offer is the quality that you're looking for, and go that route. It's harder with international schools though. Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head for resources.
Definitely get in contact with us and we can do some digging there. All right, and then any tips or advice if you have a student that's looking for merit scholarships? Are there any websites that you recommend or additional resources that you can think of for that?
I think we have a list of some resources that can be used for that. And the other thing I would just suggest is Googling like merit scholarship, Texas, merit scholarship, art, merit scholarship, this, that, any like identifying features about yourself or about where you live, things like that. Merit scholarship for a person from this town interested in this thing, like just play around with it because there are very unique scholarships sometimes that are available that maybe families set up for a very specific reason. So that's just one thing that I think kind of gets underutilized outside of the bigger resources. And
another thing too, I would check with your specific city, with your high school counselor. Hey, how much money is set aside, or what can I apply to? A lot of cities do have merit-based scholarships that students have no idea or don't take advantage of. So even if one student applied, they would have gotten the scholarship. So just make sure you reach out. And again, like Marina said, Google is there, it's available, and there's so many resources. Even on the Common App, there are scholarship finder tools in the back. We have scholarship resources. There's a ton of resources out there.
All right. How important is volunteering for college applications, and how useful are presidential service awards?
I'll say volunteering. It's important in the sense that you are doing something selfless or you're helping others. Schools love to see that you care about your community. What you're doing and how long you're doing it and the dedication that you have for it will also matter. So you don't want to just add a bunch of random volunteering hours if it's not going to come across as genuine as you would have done one or two really dedicated projects or volunteer service commitments.
I just one that, and think about too, not just, it's not just about like getting the hours. It's about what is the role that you've taken on with the organization, or is it something you're doing yourself, and how has it maybe evolved over time, right? Like you might start something as a freshman in high school, but then get increasingly involved, and that doesn't necessarily mean in terms of the amount of time that you spend on it, but what is kind of the contribution that you're making, or the leadership role that you're maybe taking on with whatever it is that you're doing.
We do have a webinar on our site that talks about, it's exclusively talking about extracurriculars, and we do talk about volunteering in that quite a bit. So definitely go take a look at that as well. All right, well, I think that brings us to the end of our webinar tonight. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Arianna, Marina, it was fantastic to have you both back. Thank you for all of this information, and thank you everyone who attended. It was fantastic to have you all here. Be on the lookout for an email with this presentation in it so you can refer back to it, and definitely sign up for more webinars or schedule a consultation with us to learn a little bit more. Hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.